The day I realized my silence had real weight was the day no one knew my name in a company that couldn't breathe without me. I'm Henry Morrison, 47 years old, and I'd been the invisible backbone of TechFlow Dynamics for 31 months. I wasn't on the org chart, had no Slack profile, missed every team photo from those mandatory fun events they called team building. But the code, the logic, the bone marrow of the entire compliance system they were betting their future on, that was all me. They kept me buried under a shell vendor agreement filed 2 subsidiaries deep like some kind of corporate nesting doll. Why? Because George Sullivan, our CFO, understood 2 things. 1, politics kill progress. 2, I don't do politics. I build clean architecture, bulletproof logic, systems that scream bloody murder when someone tries to mess with them. I'd been working remotely from my Dallas apartment for over 2 years, officially listed as a back-end compliance consultant. Unofficially, I was the architect of their flagship financial operations engine. TechFlow wasn't just writing enterprise software, they were selling a dream to regional banks across Texas and the Southwest. Let us automate your compliance audits. The pitch went, let our software monitor lending conditions based on live performance data. Sounds slick until you realize how easy that is to abuse unless someone like me builds in the safeguards. In my 23 years in this business, I've seen too many systems get compromised by executives who think compliance is just paperwork. I started coding when COBOL was still king and mainframes filled entire rooms. Back then, you built things to last because downtime meant real money lost, not just angry tweets. That's exactly what I did with TechFlow's system. I wired that platform so tight into its own integrity that any unauthorized tampering would trigger automatic alerts to our banking partners. A digital immune system, you might say. Every module had my signature embedded like a watermark, not visible to casual users, but hard-coded into the authentication protocols. But you wouldn't know any of this from walking past my desk because I didn't have one. I logged in every morning at 6 a.m. from my kitchen table, same table where my ex-wife used to read the Sunday paper before the divorce 3 years ago. My name never got called in town halls. HR never remembered to CC me on policy updates, and honestly, I preferred it that way. No birthday cards, no corporate team-building nonsense, no LinkedIn posts about celebrating our amazing engineers. Just clean code, clear documentation, and a direct line to George when the architecture needed adjustments. And you know what? I was fine with that setup. Let the young hotshots fight over corner offices and stock options. I'd rather sip black coffee from a chipped Navy mug and build something that actually worked. George was the only executive who actually understood what I brought to the table. He'd come up through engineering himself before moving to finance. So he knew the difference between code that looked good in demos and code that kept the lights on at 3 a.m. He gave me space, autonomy, and most importantly, authority to build things right the first time. Every couple weeks, we'd hop on a quiet call. No agenda, no PowerPoint presentations, just 2 guys who understood that good systems are built on trust and tested under pressure. He'd say things like, keep them honest or build in the boundaries and I'd deliver. No micromanaging, no slide decks, no Jira dashboards with color-coded priority levels, just results. Our compliance system passed 2 external audits in 2023 alone, which kept the revolving door of VPs and directors blissfully unaware of how many times I'd quietly patched around their mistakes. When the payments team decided to optimize the transaction flow without consulting anyone, I caught it before it violated federal banking regulations. When marketing promised features that didn't exist, I built them without making a fuss. George told me once during one of our calls, "Henry, you're the safety net they don't know they're wearing." And that's exactly how I want it. The system we built together wasn't just software, it was a fortress. Every transaction, every data transfer, every compliance check had multiple validation layers. If something went wrong, the system wouldn't just log an error and keep running. It would stop, assess, and alert the appropriate authorities. Our bank partners trusted us because they could verify our integrity in real time. I'd embedded authentication triggers throughout the core modules, tied directly to my contractor credentials. Not because I was paranoid, but because I'd seen what happened when critical systems got compromised by people who didn't understand them. The triggers weren't malicious, they were protective. If someone tried to remove my access without following proper offboarding procedures, the system would automatically request validation from our banking partners. Think of it like a dead man's switch, but for code. As long as I was properly credentialed and following protocol, everything ran smooth. But if someone tried to cut me out without understanding the dependencies, the system would protect itself. George understood this. He'd signed off on the architecture reviews, approved the security protocols, even joked that my code was more paranoid than a Cold War spy novel. But paranoia in systems architecture isn't a bug, it's a feature, especially when you're handling other people's money. Then, one Tuesday morning in November, everything changed. George got sick. No warning, no gradual decline, just a note from his assistant saying he'd be on medical leave for a few weeks. That was it. One minute, I was reporting to the only person in the company who understood both the technical architecture and the business implications. The next, I was hanging in the wind with a system only I knew how to interpret and no clear backup plan. I didn't panic. Not at first. George was a planner, the kind of guy who left detailed handoff notes when he went on vacation. We had protocols for everything: encryption keys, backup credentials, emergency contacts. There was a secure vault that only George and I could access, containing all the critical system documentation and recovery procedures. I figured worst case scenario, he'd brief whoever was stepping in as acting CFO, maybe send them the vault access codes, walk them through the compliance framework, explain why certain safeguards were in place. George was thorough like that. But that's not what happened. Enter Lawrence Patterson. Larry, as he insisted everyone call him, was VP of Strategic Operations, a title that sounded important but meant he spent most of his time in meetings, adding buzzwords to conversations while quietly calculating who he could step on to reach the next rung. You know the type: pressed shirts, MBA vocabulary from some expensive program he never stopped mentioning, and a LinkedIn banner photo from a conference he'd attended once in San Francisco. Larry had a master's degree in organizational optimization, which is corporate speak for firing people and making spreadsheets about it. He'd been hovering around the edges of real decision-making for 2 years, always ready with a framework or a methodology that would solve problems he didn't understand. The minute George's absence became official, Larry bloomed like mold in a flooded basement. Within 72 hours of George's medical leave announcement, Larry had declared himself acting operational lead and started moving pieces around the board like he was playing corporate chess. First thing he did was send an all-staff memo with the subject line, "New Era, New Energy," the kind of phrase that makes every experienced engineer start updating their resume. He talked about visibility initiatives and streamlining redundancies and optimizing human capital allocation. Translation: he was going to poke around until he found something he could cut to make himself look useful. Larry started showing up in meetings he'd never cared about before, asking questions like, who owns this line item? And why are we still contracting this out? He had this way of speaking that made simple problems sound complex, and complex problems sound like they could be solved with a whiteboard session and some sticky notes. He didn't even know my name the first week, just referred to me as the compliance resource or the back-end contractor whenever my work came up in discussions. To Larry, I wasn't a person with 23 years of experience who'd built the foundation his company stood on. I was a line item in a budget spreadsheet that didn't fit his organizational chart. Within a month, Larry had renamed 3 different teams, streamlined 2 director positions, and launched what he called a visibility phase. This meant everyone, and I mean everyone, had to submit weekly reports, personal impact logs, and PowerPoint updates on their value-add vectors. I watched a senior engineer with 15 years at TechFlow break down in a hallway Zoom window because Larry had made him color code his roadmap to show priority alignment with strategic initiatives. This was a guy who'd built the payment gateway that processed 80% of our client transactions. He could debug a race condition in his sleep and had prevented more system failures than anyone could count. But none of that mattered to Larry if it wasn't properly documented in the right shade of blue on a slide deck. The irony wasn't lost on me. Here was Larry demanding visibility from everyone, while I remained completely invisible. My contract wasn't in HR's main system because George had deliberately kept me off the traditional org chart. I wasn't on Larry's newfound list of resources requiring oversight because technically, I didn't exist in any database he had access to. George had tucked me deep into a compliance budget line that nobody ever questioned. It was labeled something generic like regulatory systems consulting and filed under mandatory expenses. Smart move on his part, Larry could cut travel budgets and training programs, but he couldn't touch regulatory compliance without triggering an audit review. At first, I thought this protection would hold. Larry was making noise about contractor consolidation and in-housing critical functions, but he couldn't consolidate what he couldn't find. I kept my head down, kept coding, kept monitoring the system logs that showed our banking partners running their daily compliance checks. Then I started getting messages from engineers still inside the company. Not official communications, careful, coded messages sent through back channels. The tone was always the same, forced casual, slightly apologetic, like they were apologizing for something that hadn't happened yet. "Hey Henry, heard Larry's been asking around about legacy systems, might want to document your stuff. FYI, saw your name come up in a contractor review meeting. Larry doesn't seem to know what you do. Heads up. Larry told the architecture team he's looking for black box solutions that need more transparency." Black box solutions. That phrase made me laugh out loud when I read it. I'd spent 31 months building the most transparent, well-documented compliance system I'd ever worked on. Every function was commented. Every integration was mapped. Every dependency was clearly marked. The only thing black box about my code was that Larry didn't understand it. But understanding wasn't really his goal. Larry was looking for wins, visible improvements he could point to in quarterly reviews. Firing expensive contractors and bringing work in-house looked good on PowerPoint slides, especially when you didn't mention that the contractors were the only ones who knew how the systems actually worked. I started keeping better records, not just code documentation. I'd always done that, but email trails, approval chains, system access logs. Everything that proved I wasn't just some random contractor billing hours, but the architect of a critical system that kept TechFlow in business. By December, the writing was on the wall. Larry had moved from asking who owned various projects to demanding justification for why certain work was still contracted out. He'd started scheduling efficiency reviews with team leads armed with spreadsheets showing how much money the company could save by eliminating redundant external resources. The first Friday, December, I got the email I'd been expecting. One line, no greeting, no signature. Your access will be reviewed soon. Please be prepared to justify your continued involvement. I stared at that message for a full minute, took a sip of cold coffee, then actually laughed. Not because it was funny, because I'd seen this exact same movie play out at 3 different companies over the past decade. Review meant removal, justify meant beg. And I don't beg. I'd been through 6 reorganizations in my career, from small startups to Fortune 500 companies. You learn not to flinch when the corporate buzzwords start flying. You don't panic when some new VP starts asking pointed questions about optimization opportunities. You watch, you document, and you prepare. The thing about having 23 years of experience is that you develop pattern recognition. You can smell a reorg coming months before the official announcement. You know which questions from management are genuine curiosity and which ones are fishing expeditions. And you definitely know when someone is building a case to eliminate your position. So I did what any experienced engineer does when they see storm clouds gathering. I kept building, kept logging in every morning at 6 a.m., kept monitoring the system logs and compliance reports, but I also started preparing for what was coming. I made sure every piece of documentation was current. I verified that all my backup protocols were functioning correctly. I ran integrity checks on the authentication systems and confirmed that my embedded security triggers were still active. Most importantly, I made sure that encrypted Vault George and I shared was fully backed up and accessible through multiple channels. Because here's what Larry didn't understand about the system I'd built. It wasn't just code running on servers. It was a living architecture with dependencies, safeguards, and automatic responses built into every layer. You couldn't just delete a few files and call it optimization. The system had been designed to detect and respond to exactly the kind of ham-fisted interference Larry was planning. Thursday evening, the official summons came. Larry's name was on it this time, not some assistant or HR coordinator. Need to clarify the scope of your involvement with TechFlow systems. Please join me for a brief sync tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m. Bring documentation of deliverables and current project status. Bring documentation. The man really said that like I was some intern begging for course credit, instead of the guy who'd built the foundation of their entire compliance infrastructure. I didn't reply to his email. Didn't prep a pitch deck or pull together KPI reports. Didn't need to. I was the deliverable. My work lived in every transaction that flowed through TechFlow's systems, every compliance check that kept them in good standing with their banking partners, every audit that they'd passed without a single violation. Friday morning, 8 to 27 a.m. The meeting was scheduled for 8:30, but I wasn't giving Larry the satisfaction of calling me late. I stood outside his office door, one of those glass fishbowls they give middle managers to make them feel important, while keeping them visible to everyone above them in the food chain. Larry was inside, typing with 2 fingers like he was playing whack-a-mole on his keyboard. He had that look of intense concentration people get when they're doing something that should be simple but isn't. The second he saw me through the glass, he smiled. Not friendly, triumphant, like he'd been waiting for this moment for weeks. "Henry, come in," he said without standing up. No handshake offered, no gesture toward the chairs across from his desk. Just a man in a shirt that was too tight across the shoulders, trying to play kingmaker in a sandbox. "I'll keep this brief," he started, hands folded over a manila folder like it contained state secrets. "We've done a full review of your contract arrangement. It seems your role here isn't formally defined in our current organizational structure. No W-2, no HR file, no clear system ownership documentation, just vendor payments and back-end code commits from an ID that most people don't recognize." I didn't move, didn't blink, just let him talk. Theatrical silence makes guys like Larry nervous, and nervous people say more than they should. "You've contributed some valuable architecture work. I won't deny that," he continued, using the same tone you'd use to compliment a barista's latte art. "But value needs ownership, accountability, visibility. Right now, there's too much ambiguity around what you do and how it fits into our operational framework." He paused like he was winding up for the big finale, savoring the moment. "So effective immediately. Your contract arrangement with TechFlow is terminated. Please remove all company-related files from your local environment. Delete any proprietary code, documentation, or system access credentials. You'll receive your final payment through the existing vendor agreement within 30 days. Another pause, this one longer. He was enjoying himself now. "And of course, all work product developed during your engagement belongs to TechFlow Dynamics. Full intellectual property transfer as specified in the original contractor terms." I smiled slightly, like someone who'd already packed their bags before the breakup conversation started. "Any questions?" he added, trying to sound magnanimous. "Just one," I said. "Mind putting that in writing?" He blinked once, but only for a second. Then he reached for the manila folder and slid a single sheet of paper across the desk. Already printed, already signed, probably drafted the night before. The letterhead was official TechFlow stationery. The language was clean, corporate, and legally bulletproof. Effective immediately, the services of vendor Morrison Technical Systems and associated personnel are no longer required by TechFlow Dynamics. All proprietary work conducted under this agreement is considered intellectual property of TechFlow Dynamics, Inc. All local data, systems access, and documentation must be permanently deleted from contractor resources. Lawrence Patterson, VP Strategic Operations. I read it once, folded it neatly, and slipped it into my jacket pocket. "Understood," I said. I didn't defend myself. Didn't argue about the 31 months I'd spent building their compliance infrastructure from scratch. Didn't explain that the language in his memo directly violated 3 clauses of the original vendor agreement George had negotiated. Didn't point out that permanently deleted was a dangerous phrase when applied to system-critical code. Explaining would have implied I needed his permission to exist. And I'd learned a long time ago that you never argue with people who've already made up their minds. Instead, I stood up, nodded once, and walked out. No dramatic door slam, no parting shots about how he'd regret this decision. Just the click of my boots on polished tile and the electronic beep of the badge reader as I handed my access card to a receptionist who looked like she wanted to disappear into the office plant beside her desk. By 9:15 a.m., I was back in my apartment, made fresh coffee, the good stuff I saved for weekends, and sat down at my kitchen table, the same table where I'd written thousands of lines of code, debugged countless system errors, and built something that actually mattered. My laptop was open, terminal window waiting. I pulled up my local repository and looked at what Larry had just ordered me to delete. Thousands of lines of code, detailed documentation, system architecture diagrams, test frameworks, deployment scripts. 31 months of work, all of it tagged with my digital signature, all of it essential to keeping TechFlow's compliance systems running. Per Larry's written directive, all of it had to go. So I did exactly what he asked. I deleted everything. Local environment, development tools, mirror backups, test harnesses, architecture documentation stored in OneNote, even the PowerPoint slides I'd created to explain the system design to George. Gone. All of it, like it had never existed. But here's what Larry didn't understand, what George had always known. My laptop wasn't the system. The real value wasn't in the code I stored locally. It was in what I'd built into the production environment. Authentication triggers, compliance validators, integrity checks that were hard-coded into the core modules and tied directly to my contractor credentials. Larry hadn't just fired a contractor. He'd yanked a load-bearing thread out of a live electrical system, thinking it was decorative trim. And now that thread was about to spark before I shut down my laptop, I did one final thing. I opened a secure cloud drive I hadn't touched in over a year, encrypted, two-factor authenticated, accessible only through a fingerprint scanner that George had jokingly called my doomsday device. Inside was a folder marked emergency documentation. I scanned Larry's termination memo, time-stamped it with blockchain verification, and filed it away in a secure partition. Not because I planned to use it immediately, but because something in me had shifted. Something cold, methodical, and completely professional. Larry had just handed the detonator to the only person who knew where all the explosives were buried. The phone started ringing around noon. Not my phone. I'd turned that off. But I was still getting messages through encrypted channels from engineers at TechFlow, people who understood what my code actually did and were starting to see warning signs in their system logs. Henry, compliance dashboard is throwing errors on the banking integration. Larry says you left voluntarily, but the logs show credential failures tied to your ID. What's happening? System started rejecting transactions around 10 a.m. Bank called asking about authentication protocols. Larry's telling everyone it's a minor glitch, but the error codes are all linked to your security modules. Dude, something's wrong with the audit trail system. Every compliance check is timing out. Larry's in full panic mode but won't admit there's a problem. Did you really just walk away? I read each message, archived them without responding, and poured myself a glass of bourbon. It wasn't even 1 p.m., but this seemed like the right kind of day for breaking normal rules. Meanwhile, somewhere in the server farms that hosted TechFlow's infrastructure, my code was doing exactly what I designed it to do. The system was detecting an unauthorized credential removal, validating the deletion against established protocols, and finding multiple violations of standard procedure. And then it started making phone calls. At 1:46 p.m., a compliance flag triggered in First National Bank's monitoring dashboard. The system I'd built had detected an unauthorized credential deletion tied to a critical authentication module. My digital signature had been purged from the production environment without following standard offboarding procedures, no formal handoff, no backup credential assignment, no compliance officer approval. You don't just erase that kind of signature and walk away, not when it's hard-coded into operational trust protocols. Not when your banking partner uses that exact signature to verify your company is operating within the risk thresholds defined in your $15 and $2 million credit agreement. TechFlow's credit line wasn't some rubber-stamped business loan. It was conditional financing, based on provable operational integrity and regulatory compliance. The bank's algorithms didn't care about internal politics or VP power plays. They cared about verification chains, audit trails, and documented procedures. My credential wasn't just access control, it was proof of concept. Embedded authentication that told First National systems, yes, TechFlow is following proper protocols. Yes, their compliance architecture is intact. Yes, you can trust them with this much money. Pull that authentication out wrong and the whole framework starts shaking. By 2:03 p.m., an automatic freeze order was issued. TechFlow's revolving credit line was locked pending internal investigation. Not canceled, not reduced, suspended. Like a bank putting a hold on your account when they detect unusual activity, except this hold was worth $22 million. Larry was too busy updating his LinkedIn profile to notice the financial earthquake happening 3 floors below him. He'd posted something about streamlining operational excellence and shared an article about workforce optimization in the digital age. The first email came at 2:47 p.m., sent to George's corporate account with copies to legal and the board of directors. Your inch compliance validation failure detected in TechFlow systems. User credential Morrison H shows irregular deletion event without proper deactivation protocols. This violates First National Compliance Standards per Section 12.4 of Credit Agreement. Please provide immediate documentation of authorized system changes and credential transfer procedures. It was signed by Diana Walsh, First National's compliance officer, a sharp woman who'd spent 15 years as a federal bank examiner before moving to the private sector. Deanna didn't send urgent emails unless something was genuinely broken. Nobody replied to that first email because nobody at TechFlow understood what it meant. George was still on medical leave. Larry didn't have access to the compliance documentation. The legal team couldn't find any record of a credential transfer or system modification. The second email came 90 minutes later. This one marked critical. Per previous communication, TechFlow Credit Facility remains frozen pending resolution of compliance validation failure. System logs indicate unauthorized deletion of primary authentication credential at 0:9:43 a.m. today. This action triggers mandatory review under federal banking regulations. Failure to provide adequate documentation within 24 hours may result in formal breach classification. That's when phones started ringing. George's personal cell phone buzzed at 6:43 a.m. Monday morning, right after he'd finished his second round of antibiotics. The caller ID showed Diana Walsh's direct line, never a good sign when your bank's compliance officer is calling before 7 a.m. "George, we need to talk. Your systems threw multiple red flags Friday afternoon. Something about unauthorized credential deletion tied to your compliance architecture. I'm looking at logs that show a critical authentication module was compromised." George was in his car before she finished explaining the situation. When Larry strolled into the office Monday morning with his oat milk latte and Bluetooth earpiece, he had no idea the weather had already changed. George was back sitting in the legal conference room with Diana Walsh on speakerphone, surrounded by audit reports and system logs that painted a very clear picture. "Why is Henry Morrison's credential showing a non-standard termination event?" was the first thing George said when Larry was summoned to the meeting. Dead silence. Mouse clicks. Password resets. Two people from IT got locked out trying to access authentication logs they didn't know existed. Morrison was a contractor. Larry said when he finally found his voice, "We terminated his vendor agreement Friday. Standard business decision. No legal obligation to maintain external resources indefinitely." George stared at him for a long moment. "Did you follow the offboarding protocol for system-critical personnel?" "There was no protocol. He was just a contractor." "Just a contractor," George repeated quietly. "Henry Morrison, the architect of our entire compliance infrastructure. The man whose digital signature is embedded in every transaction we process. You fired him like he was a temp worker. That's when the sweating started." Diana's voice came through the speakerphone, crisp and professional. "Mr. Patterson, our systems show that critical authentication protocols were deleted at 9:43 a.m. Friday morning, 1 hour after the credential termination you authorized. This caused a cascade failure in compliance validation that automatically triggered our credit facility freeze." Larry shifted in his chair. "I ordered him to delete his local files, standard practice, while he was still authenticated to production systems," George said. "You told the primary architect to erase system-critical code while his credentials were still active in our compliance framework. I assumed you assumed." George's voice went ice cold. "You assumed you could delete the foundation while standing on the roof." At that point, George opened his laptop and projected the authentication logs onto the conference room wall. There it was in clear digital black and white. My credential deletion, the cascade of failed validation checks, the automatic alerts to First National, the frozen credit line, all linked together in perfect sequence. Clean. Precise. Inevitable. I'd built the system that way because I knew someday someone would try to optimize away the safeguards without understanding what they protected. The legal team dissected Larry's actions with surgical precision. No documentation of system impact analysis. No consultation with technical leadership. No approval from compliance oversight. No backup credential assignment. No transfer of system ownership. Just a VP with an MBA and a folder full of buzzwords trying to solve problems he didn't understand. "Mr. Patterson," Diana's voice cut through the conference room silence. "You triggered a compliance breach that jeopardizes TechFlow's entire banking relationship. This will require federal notification and formal remediation procedures." By Wednesday afternoon, Larry was gone. Not fired, suspended pending compliance investigation. The kind of corporate phrase that sounds professional but really means we're building a case to make sure this person never works in this industry again. George called me Thursday evening. "Henry, we've restored your emergency access credentials. The bank needs verification from the original system architect. How quickly can you assess the damage and provide a remediation plan?" "Give me 2 hours," I said. At 7:30 p.m., I logged into a fresh terminal session. The system recognized me immediately, like I'd never been gone. My signature was still embedded throughout the compliance framework, exactly where I'd left it, not deleted, just waiting for proper authentication. I pulled the restoration templates from my secure backup, not the local files Larry had ordered me to delete, but the original architectural specifications stored in encrypted cloud storage. Clean, legal, fully documented, and completely outside TechFlow's corporate infrastructure. Within 30 minutes, the compliance module was fully restored, error logs cleared, authentication chains re-established, validation protocols re-engaged. First National's dashboard flickered from red to green, no fanfare, no celebration, just quiet confirmation that the ghost had returned and made the walls stop shaking. Later that night, George sent a text. Board approved your reinstatement as senior systems architect, full employee status, not contractor. Let's talk about the details Monday. I didn't reply immediately. Not because I was angry. The cold fire had burned out somewhere between Larry's termination memo and watching the system defend itself exactly as designed. I knew TechFlow would survive this. The board would smooth things over with the bank, probably bring in some expensive consultant to review their human capital optimization procedures. Larry would land somewhere else, armed with new buzzwords about lessons learned and process improvement. But my job was done. I'd built something honest that protected itself when it mattered most. When corporate politics collided with technical reality, the code spoke louder than any VP with a god complex. As I closed my laptop and finished my bourbon, I said one thing to the empty apartment. Next time, read the fine print. Outside my window, Dallas traffic hummed through the night. Somewhere across town, Larry was probably polishing his resume. And somewhere in a climate-controlled server room, my code was quietly doing its job. Keeping the lights on for people who'd never know my name, just the way I'd always liked it. Sometimes the best revenge is simply building things so well that they protect themselves and you when politics tries to override competence. In a world full of people who mistake visibility for value, the quiet professionals who actually keep things running often have the last laugh when the system speaks louder than any corporate title.